Good evening. At this time, I'll call the Lee County Board of Education and call a special meeting to order, and I will ask for approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda for the called meeting January 22nd, 2019.
I second that motion.
Being a motion and being a second, all in favor of the agenda as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Agenda is passed. Moving right along into new business, we have our W. Wicker Elementary School Districting Plan, and at this time, I will call on Dr. Smith and Christine Hilliard.
Mr. Chairman, the F&T committee met last Tuesday, and it was a consensus of the committee to approve Plan A as presented by Mr. Kovacic. At this point in time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Kovacic and let him present all three plans for the board's consideration, and we'll move forward after his presentation.
Mr. Kovacic.
Alrighty. So wait till we get it up. I guess we really don't need it up. Oh, it is. All right. At a previous F&T meeting, we discussed the criteria for the redistricting, and the number one criteria was the number of students at the schools, maintaining some neighborhood integrity, and school bus routing and transportation, efficient use of all of those, with an emphasis to relieve the overcrowding at B.T. Bullock, Edwards, and Ingram. Were you doing that because you
might
can't?
want to speak up just a little bit.
Can you hear me now? That's right, I'll put it right in there, okay? We'll try it there. All right, so we're looking at a capacity, a calculated capacity for W.B. Wicker of 969, reserving 2 classrooms for pre-K students, so 933 K through 5 students, and that would be maxed out. So we're looking at a functional capacity of the first year between 800 and 850 students. Each of the plans that we're going to show, you're going to have the map on the left-hand side. The blue lines, we're going to leave those lines on there regardless of the option that we're showing, because those are the current attendance zone lines. You're going to have the current enrollment on your table here, along with the option number, and then what the change in that enrollment would be. Those students then that have transferred from the current attendance zone to W.B. Wicker zone, and then finally a choice number here, which would be the enrollment for W.B. Wicker plus whatever the number is to 825. So that the first year anywhere from 800 to 850. So we're bringing it into 825, so you've got some wiggle room. And we're leaving wiggle room because we have 2 wild cards. The first one being those students that currently are going to Tramway that would now live inside the W.B. Wicker attendance zone that may choose to go to W.B. Wicker, and also the lottery choice on where those students are actually going to come from the current attendance zones. So we'll just pop in right into A, and we are affecting 4 current enrollment zones. B.T. Bullock, we're pulling 149, Greenwood 101, Edwards 165, from Ingram 174 with 188 choice. The 637 that you see as the number for W.B. Wicker, that includes the 2 pre-K classes along with the average growth rate for the elementary schools, a 5-year growth rate. So we'll zoom in, take a better look at it. So you can see the legs that we're pulling from Ingram, Bullock, and Edwards, and Greenwood. Nice compact area. And in essence, we're following Carthage Street to the Deep River Elementary School line. We're not changing anybody from Deep River down to Main Street, Tramway Road, pulling a little bit of an area down off of St. Andrew's Church Road, but then over to Fire Tower Road, and then following the J.R. Ingram district back up to Carthage Street. There was a question when we were going through this, well, why is W.B. Wicker way up to the north of this option? And we looked at that, and we're going to show you why we don't have that, the W.B. Wicker right in the middle of this neighborhood district. We're going to back out a little bit. We're going to put the current location of elementary school students, and you can see that in just those small areas that we took from the 4 present school districts, we have a complete school right there. We've relieved the overcrowding at Bullock, Ingram, and Edwards, still pulling some from Greenwood. But if we move that line over to US 1, in just that area there, we're looking at 140 students. We would be down below a functional capacity for J.R. Ingram, way below a functional capacity. So if we went north even, from Spring Lane to Horner Boulevard down, we're looking at 115 students there, another 60 students between Horner Boulevard and Hawkins Avenue at Hill Avenue. Taking those 115 then out of Bullock, again, we're way below a functional capacity. And just adding those two numbers then to Wicker, we're reaching a calculated capacity, which, you know, with that first year we would be full. And we need room to grow in all of these schools. Then if we look even then going up into the Deep River side, over half of Deep River's students live within the 421 bypass. So option A, pulling from the areas from Bullock, Ingram, and Edwards, was our best choice there. We are extremely limited going north and west. All right, so that brings us to option B. We can't go north or west, but we can go east. So we'll zoom in a little bit here. What is outlined in green, that is the option A. So we've just extended that out to the east and pulling in from Deep River. We're pulling in 53 students, and from Broadway, 23 students. So following option A, Tramway Road, Main Street, Fire Tower Road, Carthage Street, but then we're pulling in the Clearwater Drive neighborhood from Deep River, and then coming down 421, and then back along Main Street. But we're not only changing that area for Wicker, we're also we're exchanging some Broadway students with Edward students. Everything east of 421 that's south of the Deep River attendance zone would be going to Broadway. Everything west of 421 south of the new option B for Wicker would be going to Edwards. So we've changed some data up there too. All right. Then our third option is we're making some major changes. We're just going to go ahead and zoom in. It looks like option B minus an area off of St. Andrew's Church Road, but we are bringing Ingram down to pick up Center Church Road. We're moving J. Glenn Edwards over to Minter School Road down the Castleberry Road, moving Greenwood up Lemon Springs Road to Castleberry, up St. Andrew's Church Road to Lee Avenue over to to Highway 87. So we're creating a more neighborhood feel than for Greenwood. So these are our three options that we presented to F&T. Discussion, questions?
Mr. Chairman, would it be okay if Chair and Vice Chair of the F&T Committee, they made a recommendation regarding option A? You want to share your thoughts? Would y'all like to share your thoughts on that as everybody's thinking through this?
We did choose option A, and I think the thing that stood up in my mind is, and Mr. Kovacic, let me thank you for being here, and tell the board how fortunate we are to have Mr. Kovacic here. I've told everybody I know he's the smartest man I know, and I know some smart statisticians, but he's high on my list, and we really appreciate you being here and providing us with this kind of information. The thing that stood out in the committee's mind, and you jump in here anytime, is we now are every school is a neighborhood school with Plan A. We're moving forward children. Two of the districts remain unchanged, and the fewer students we move, the better off I think we are in terms of public perception. And this just seems the most logical way for us to create this attendance zone. And Ms. Hilliard, you jump in here anytime.
And obviously, it's also the smallest in size-wise, which would, as we were speaking earlier with Mr. Cagle, it may be more road miles, but it's going to be smaller, shorter routes. So there won't be such long busing issues or such long distance for the children to ride. It'll be in a smaller, more compact area. There may be lots of stops, but at least they won't have to be on there quite so long. And the other two are not that much bigger, but like Dr. Smith said, it does give us the neighborhood feel to another school, so we can have our neighborhood schools.
May I ask how many mobile units will be taken care of or gotten rid of, rather, because of this plan? We have an idea?
I don't have the exact number yet, but when we originally started this project and started discussing it, we felt like that we could get could eliminate vast majority of those. I can't say that we'll be getting rid of all of them. Of course, we've said that from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be able to make that determination once we have the redistricting done, and then we'll be looking at what distribution numbers between schools. But we're going to be able to eliminate a lot of mobile units.
I hope so. Good.
Other questions from members of the board?
And Mr. Chairman, something else that came up with F&T meeting today, I asked Mr. Reed, we by policy are required to provide bus transportation of children who live outside a mile and a half. Did you have that information? Was that used at all in these calculations?
Not in the attendance zones, no, but we can certainly create a transportation zone if that.
I think what he's referring to is just the efficiency of the zone of the attendance. Am I correct, Mr. Cagle? Yes. And I think to go back to your original question, I think the efficiency of the routes is going to be taken care of. Reed has been part of all those conversations and provides transportation for students in and around the school in the attendance zone.
Actually, what I was headed towards, the more children who are able to walk, certainly I think is a plus. Of course, Reed told us that we do provide transportation for children who do live inside that mile and a half limit.
Right.
But, in its truest sense, a neighborhood school, the more children who can walk and provide their own transportation, I think it's just convenient. It would be a nice piece of information to add to this picture, if that's possible.
We can certainly do that.
So you do have the numbers of how many children live within a mile and a half from the school, approximately?
We have the number of children, yes, that are within a mile and a half radius of WB Wicker, the school itself,
With district,
or
with
you're
the
looking
District
at
A, I'm looking at Pacific plan. The option was A, and I was curious if you
option
happen
was
to know
A.
that.
So yes, that would be 637 minus the 36 that are going to, that are reserved for pre-K.
Okay.
And then I think it's a 12, then minus 12 for that. So we're looking at 500 and some odd that are within that zone right today. Does that make sense? Am I answering your question?
You're saying there's over 500 children that live within walking distance to the school?
Walking distance is relative.
Especially when they live behind you walking, you know.
I think
within a mile
somebody-
and a
I think
half.
somebody that lives a mile and a half away probably would not be within walking distance. If we could take a particular neighborhood or go out 1,500 feet or a quarter of a mile or half a mile, we could certainly do that.
Okay.
We could give you a walkability feature to that. That's
I don't
something-
expect children to walk a mile and a half, sir, but yes, I understand what you're saying.
And we do have the ability to do that.
Okay.
There are standards out there, and we can do that.
So just for clarification, are we going to ask or require children within a certain, a certain distance of the school to walk, or are we going to provide transportation to all the children that attend? Or is that not a question for
Go
tonight?
ahead, Reed. No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Reed.
That makes me feel better.
On the record, no child is required to walk to school whatsoever. So that is on the record. Thanks, Reed. Can you explain the definition of what you mean by efficient capacity? How you come to that term?
Yes, there is a calculated capacity, which is the very max, how I understand it, and you can correct me,
That's
Superintendent,
correct.
that it is the absolute max that a school can hold. That it would max out all the classes, would max out all of your resources. You would have no room to grow whatsoever.
In your core facilities.
At your core facilities, yes. And any school that has any mobile unit is actually past the calculated capacity. We recalculate the capacity adding on those mobile units. So that is a calculated capacity. A functional capacity is normally 90% or below the calculated capacity, which gives you room to grow, get your resources. You feel better about being there. But the calculated, or excuse me, the functional capacity that we're looking at now may be a little bit different because of the class size initiative that we're working on. If you would want to explain that, Superintendent?
Sure. Well, the total number with functional capacity, I think when we're looking at 825 to 850, I think allows growth. And that's one of the things we had to consider as we were designing the building, take into account class size initiative, and also one of the things we have to take into account for the other buildings as well.
Because we can add mobile units, but if we're stretching our core facilities such as bathrooms and cafeteria, we're putting a strain on our school system, costing money that we shouldn't be spending that could go in other places. But at a level capacity, functional capacity, we're actually saving money and giving the best, trying to give the best education we can. So, other questions from board members?
But this calculation is going to help us meet the class size reduction with our classroom needs.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean that's
Yes, sir.
that's essential to this
Yes, sir.
conversation. Yeah.
Seeing no other discussion, this does not need a second. All in favor of the preferred of option A, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Option A passes. So, at this time, concluding all of our new business, I will call for adjournment just after I say thank you for those that are dealing, who've put up with me today and noticed that I'm squinting. I actually had laser eye surgery this morning, and some of you are a little blurry to me. So, I appreciate everybody coming tonight, especially the public. And with that, I'll call a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned.